The Lodge is directed by Veronica Franz and Severin Fiala, and also written by them as well, and stars Riley, if I'm pronouncing it right, Keough, I believe, and Jaden Martell and Alicia Silverstone, and among others. And it basically follows a man who's him and his fiance's two children. He ends up having to take them to this lodge that's during Christmas time, and it's like in this rural countryside area. And after you've seen them from the trailer, not to go into spoilers, but they basically start to notice some strange events, and it becomes a question of whether it's either cabin fever or something else that's going on that we don't know about.
Now, we want to keep it at that because I felt like this is one of those films that I kind of want to give viewers a fresh mind going in. So try to keep it spoiler free. We'll try to as best as possible. But basically, there's some tragic events that happen at the beginning, which leads them into choosing to go out to this cabin thing, which has been, I guess, part of the family. I don't know. And basically, yeah, some mysterious, creepy stuff and starts going on. You start, like he said, you start questioning, like, if it's insanity going on, cabin fever, what's going on? You get the answers in the movie, somewhat. You get the answers, but yeah. But anyways, when I saw the trailers to this, funny enough, actually came out at Sundance last year, and it came out in January. So when this got its praise in Sundance, it got official release date of November last year. Because I remember seeing it was supposed to be kind of for the cold, snowy times, and that's when it was going to come out. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, some reason they had to move to 2020, so it sat on a shelf a whole year.
I believe also, if I'm thinking correctly, I think because it was coming out in November of last year, if I'm thinking out loud, they may have possibly pushed it back because they probably didn't want to compete with Dr. Sleep, because that came out in November.
That's true, yeah. I don't see why they couldn't get it to December, because they did go with the Christmas vibe. But they weren't able to get anything for the rest of the year. They decided to move it to February. Unfortunately, us living in bumfuck Egypt and not so movie crazed part of the U.S., we don't get a lot of these films in theaters, unfortunately, and that's why we result in having to do shit like this. That's seen at home. But anyways, with the virus, we had no choice anyways. But this movie did not come to our theaters. It was a February release, I believe. We never got it. So I will say that I saw the trailers to it. It looked pretty interesting, Looked like something that, the whole cabin feverish and, a movie keeping you guessing, and some of the actors and just the way it was, how it's shot, what I saw in the trailers. I was like, okay, this looks interesting. It kind of reminded me, it was funny because I saw this movie's trailer and I saw Antlers, which is going to be a movie apparently kind of similar but different approach, but it's all about seclusion and cabin and all that crap. So it's like, okay, that's kind of cool that these both came out. I feel like they go as a collection pack, but we won't see Antlers until I think next year or later this year. But upon seeing the movie, I will say that I like it. I see what it was trying to do, but I can't get over its flaws. This is a very divided film among fans. I do see people that loved it or they hate it. I'm in the middle, like I usually am. There's things that bother me, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I can definitely understand. This is a film that I like. I'm kind of more like about the same as you. Because I look at these type of movies that deal with like slow burn type of psychological horror levels that from time to time I get the polar divisiveness for them, like movies like Hereditary, Midsummer, all the A24 horror films. Which, granted, I'm actually one of those where I get into a lot of those. So if you checked our review of Hereditary, me and him had a split decision. But this movie kind of basically had it on that similar level. But I liked where it was doing, and I liked that overall the movie, the way it played out, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm 50-50 with A24. If you guys followed us throughout all our years, we was really divi- divided in Hereditary. He loved it. I thought it was pretty boring. I don't know why. I just couldn't get into it. Something about it uh, it just bored me. I, and however, I will say that surprisingly enough, I actually loved Midsummer. Absolutely loved that movie. So it just depends on how they approach the artsiness, and balance plays a big role in artsy films for me. There has to be a balance. There can't be too far edgy. Like me personally, I thought Hereditary was going for that shock and all to the point that it just was too hard, is basically what I'm trying to say. And that to me can bother me because a film that forces that just takes me out of
Yeah.
the mood. I don't know what it is. And I need balance. And I didn't think it had balance. So, but yeah, I've been getting into more of their films lately, like The Lighthouse. I loved. That was a good movie. But anyways, getting back into this movie, I will say that getting my pros, I will say the casting was really, really good. The kid from It, he's moving up in the world. I'm glad to see him in other films. He was good. The little girl was good. The main chick who we follow in this film, the kind of like new girlfriend's fiance,
Hmm.
she was the light of this movie. Her mental illness of what she's seeing and going through was fucking done spectacular, and I gotta praise that. And I was actually surprised to see Alicia Silverstone back into cinema again. When was the last time we seen this girl in a
Be
movie?
honest, man. The last time I even seen her in a film, well, at least that went to theaters and all. I think the last time I even seen her or anything was probably Beauty Shop back in 2005. Yeah,
God
it's been that
damn.
fucking long since I seen her or anything.
And it's funny. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, that came out of nowhere, which was
Yeah,
also pro.
but
But
I
you
will
know,
say though
it's
that yeah, like yeah, but it's great, like you were saying, it's great to see her back, and I also got to really give my biggest highlight the most with Riley Kuo, or however you pronounce her name. She was like one of the biggest standouts for me the most in this because her performance was not only captivating with how you're kind of like questioning her type of like state that she's going through, whether she's insane, whether she's seeing shit, or whatever the case is with what they're going through in this location. And the way they play it out, it shows in a way, it kind of plays it both on a grounded, realistic level, but also a level that's very unsettling because you can really see when the shit goes down toward later of what happens, it really puts you in that kind of vibe that I actually was pretty intrigued by it.
yes. Getting that subject, that's another pro. I will say that the whole like guessing, you know, if it's mental illness, cabin fever, if it's her tragic past coming back to haunt her, which we won't go in detail because don't want to spoil anything, but it questions if that's even happening. It leaves you question if they're dead or alive, if they're seeing what they're seeing or not what they're seeing, if that makes any sense. And is it her or is it the kids or is it the lodge? So I do like movie guests make you dig and work what you're watching. I like not being lazy and sitting on my ass and just like the boy fucking two, where it's so fucking lazily done. I didn't even have to watch it. They already know it was the whole movie. So I like movies that do that, and I will say that they done that part very well. Another thing I loved, the atmosphere, the snow, the Christmas, the sense of coldness. Hell, a movie within a movie. They play The Thing, Jack Frost. They keep this cold feel in the film very strong, and I loved the atmosphere. I love the darkness of the cinematography they used.
I do too. I thought that it brings a lot of great unsettling moments, and there are some pretty like disturbing vibes that the movie goes across, especially when again, we won't go into spoilers, but there are like nightmares that she goes through in this film that I thought were pretty unsettling, and one of them has to do with this. Well, let's just say it has to do with being almost
Cold.
drowning, so to speak. Yeah, in code drowning, so to speak. And there's just that type of vibe that puts you in that type of level where you feel like you're there, and it hits back home. And where we're currently living around, I mean, I hope everyone's staying safe. By the way, it puts you. It's the kind of movie that puts you in that kind of mood, so to speak, as well.
No, just off topic, just for a second. It's crazy. This has got to be the third movie that we saw that fits what we're going through these days. The whole cabin fever. Not to mention, we're gonna have another movie coming out off topic of a film of people going insane with Russell Crowe, road rage, and all that stuff. So it's like, was this even? It's kind of weird that a lot of these movies are portraying what we're going through. Ironically, were made last year, and they kind of predicted the whole future with this cabin fever. Because I kid you not, I don't know how many movies we've already saw this year with the cabin fever theme. This is another one. I think this is the third one this year. So
Yeah,
it's kind of that we're getting these. But yeah, it fits its time. So, anyways, getting into other things, like you said, the cold feel of her, like, like the disturbing images of cold and her dreaming of drowning and this whole cult thing. And then there's a hint of kind of like midsummerish type thing with the religion. Don't want to go farther than that. It just, the
yeah.
themes that are playing are wrong that I did get into.
And
I will say that one of my pros I loved was the score. It felt like I was watching The Shining with
mhm.
like the like the one with Stanley Kubrick. The themes, the music playing in this in the background were great. So I like that too.
I did too. I really got to appreciate the score in this. It was, give me vibe like we were saying in some other movies that do this psychological feel. It puts you in the moment. You can hear the cues that they come in that are very unsettling, but also, make you feel very unedged. And it's like, oh, I wonder what's going to come up here. And what's good about movies like this that I enjoy is that this is the problem that I have with a lot of modern filmmaking when it comes to standard horror films. When it comes to just movies like this that deal with like unsettling but actually timing it right when things happen, there's either not really like any music playing, or there's instances where there is music but it actually times it right. And that's why I think the score also comes into play in this too with it.
Yeah.
So
I will say that the with the score were like example, like I got a home theater system in my bedroom. So hearing that part where she hits that piano and it makes that like that cold church kind of music, it shook my whole fucking room, which I would have loved to seen that in theaters. But hell, my system is fucking just equivalent to it. It sounded great, and
yeah, that
I
that
tried it
was
out.
creepy.
Got this a few days ago, so it was kind of neat hearing that whole, my whole room like vibrate to that. But get into
Yeah.
back to the review, I will say that there's some disturbing shit that I thought worked really well in this film, and the beginning was another one of them. The ending was fucked up. I kind of can guess where it went, and I did like the whole vulnerability to that. I did like the whole ambiguous closing, make you guess that even though I already know where it went. I did
Yeah,
think that, and it was pretty fucked up. I kind
it
of had
is.
the bad going that way. I had that gut feeling it was going that direction because, man, they kind of spoil a little bit earlier if you see her backstory.
Foreshadowed.
So I had that feeling it was going that direction. Unfortunately, that was like 50-50, but I still enjoyed, like, I was like, whoa, like they did that. So I will say that's a pro.
Yeah, I give you that. It's like the movie, even though it foreshadowed what we see later at the very end of it, it was just like I like the bleakness they were going for because it fits the tone of what the movie was doing. So I appreciate them doing that. So yeah, this is now we pretty much get to our cons, and I will say that while I am intrigued with the film, I think my biggest thing I have to really like have complained the most is there is points in the film where they could have really kind of up some stuff up with its pacing better, because it does feel, even though it does have some interesting stuff going along, it does feel like it really kind of moves more slower than usual. And in my opinion, if you're going to go with the A24 route, not trying to say it should have been made by A24, but if you're going to go the route where you need to build on atmosphere and like do more things to kind of get you in that mindset, you probably should have made the movie either longer to kind of give us more stuff, because the pacing can be a little off balance in this movie.
Yeah, this movie, for surprising enough, is like an A24 type of feel where it relies on atmosphere and art and all that stuff like Midsummer, Hereditary, The Witch, stuff like that. I was stunned to find out that this movie was only 10 minutes longer than Brahms' The Boy 2, which was kind of one of the shortest horror films I've seen in a long time. So that was a big no-no for one. They should have never done that. And that does play on their direction. And a lot of shit ain't explained, which I'll get into. I will say that now on my cons, yeah, you're all right. Pacing, I felt like this is basically what they were trying to do. I felt like they overdosed us on atmosphere. They were wanting to let us feel that cold, unsettled feel to the point that they realized that they didn't realize they were doing that so much they forgot to explain a lot of shit in the story because there's a lot of stuff that goes unexplained. And I have an issue with that. It has a lot to do with her backstory. And they introduced us to quite the fucking chilling backstory.
Yeah.
They gave, that was basically it. And I liked it. But then it was like, never, I mean, they use it in dream sequences and that's it. I'm like, who is she? It's like, then why did the kids try to did they do that kind of way where they're tricking her, or was it her? And then they announced they tricked her, but then some of the stuff that we saw could have not been possible because they do some shit that in real life they'd been dead or something, to thinking that they're in this other realm. I don't know. There's not a lot explained because this movie is very short. That's why you can't do that on an hour and 40-minute runtime for a film.
It's about an hour and 48 minutes. Well, that's including credits. Now, if you cut credits out, it's about hour 39 minutes, I think, or so. So it's about that much.
So let me get back in order on my cons. I have a problem with the setup. Big time. Not big time to ruin the movie, but it does take it down a notch for me. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I don't get this at all. This girl did some, I don't want to spoil the fucking shit she did, but let's just say that there's a tragedy backstory involving what could have, in real life, she would have been put to death, locked up away for life, couldn't get out. Then you have the dad who has kids. Why would you leave the kids with this girl? Did he know? It doesn't explain this. The kid's fine in 2 seconds. I expect a man who's going to marry a woman to know what he's getting into. So I don't know whether he knows or not. If he does know, you're a fucking idiot. And that falls into characters making bad decisions. That bothers me. In a film like this, making a rookie mistake like we bitch about in those little fucking typical slasher movies, the film does that. Father lets kids go with psychopath to a secluded area where she could probably fucking pop anytime. That is not a smart move. And even if he doesn't know, the kids find out and they don't tell him. Wouldn't you be scared if you're being sent away with a psychopath?
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely something that really should have. You really think they really should have either elaborated on better, or it's just really bad. It's really bad writing when it comes to unconventional stuff that you really find you question, like, okay, that I don't believe that would happen. It's unbelievable is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a father. I just don't buy a lot what happened at the beginning. It makes in terms for a very bad setup. I felt like the writers and directors didn't know how to set up. I get where they wanted to go, and what they were going for and going was really good. Now, how do we set the start up? How we get to the beginning? How we get here? Mm-hmm. They didn't very well, and that bothered me. So that's one of my cons. Another issue I had, I will say that I do feel like some of the shit she's seeing can throw you off balance a little bit because I mean, it tries to and it works, but at the same time, some of it is too edgy, and a
It
lot of
feels
the
more shock and awe, so to speak.
plays in this film only like two of them get fucking explanations towards the end. The rest of them, it's just more add-ons. Like they bring up the girl's past, the whole thing with the father cult, whatever shit they were going with, and then it abruptly stops from there. Then it becomes something else. And it's like, I get that the movies and the director and writer wanted to keep tricking you and then not be able to guess, even though they gave us the atypical, what we were kind of predicting anyways, ending. But it made the film feel a little bit messy.
Yeah, and because I give them ambition on this in some way, because the way that the film is going with its kind of, well, themes that surround the characters' beliefs and stuff. I get where the movie was going with it on that approach, because on how it connects with the whole psychological feel, so to speak. But I agree what you're saying. You know, it's not really elaborated on too well, and it basically makes it to where it's not really fully explored, is what we're trying to say.
On some of these artsy films that are really compelling type stories, but I feel like some of them ruin itself when they overdose you on being like out there with some of its sequences, to the point it wants to say, look, I'm art, I'm edgy,
and that's why
that bothers me with art films. And
well,
that's why
I preferred. That's why I also, that's why I also preferred like something like, say, Hereditary or The Lighthouse, with movies that, you know, they at least were able to kind of keep it more like cohesive with things, and kind of keep, while it's vague at times still, like we are with this movie, it still keeps it to the point where you're still getting the idea of what they're going for, so to speak.
When it comes to really shock and awe, like, you know, being edgy and going out there with the sequences of fucking losing your mind and just trying to be artsy, I think Lighthouse did it better because, like you said, they kept in the context. While they're in a lighthouse, they were using really weird images of like oceanography type shit. This one really just went out there, and some of the scenes in those sequences didn't make sense in this film. So Lighthouse, in terms, did the better on the whole edginess, in my opinion. But other than that, I will say that I don't have too many complaints about this film. I felt like it could have been way better than what it was, but what we were given, I can live with. And that being said, I'm going to be nice on this one. I'm going to go ahead and give this film a high average Joe in the Film Phreeks meter.
Fair enough. Yeah, I agree with a lot of your points that you're like on your level, where, you know, besides the pacing, the movie really could have given us more, like, gave us things to kind of, you know, make fill in some gaps that were pretty much missing as well, and to try to make things more sense wise as far as its story, the way it was planned out with all the stuff that she's seeing, and the imagery that was just kind of, you know, just there just to be there on some occasions. So with that being said, I'm going with also a high average on the Film Phreeks meter as well. So those of you who have also seen the Lodge, let us know in the comments below what you thought about it, and stay safe, and I hope we'll see you guys we'll see you on our next review. We'll see you later.